Welcome to Dodgers Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Coach Holt on a Monday morning that we are kind of drowning in our sorrows after the Padres came in and just dominated Game 2, Coach. I know the Dodgers had some early opportunities. You had the great play by Jurickson and Profar. You had some opportunities early, but point blank, the Padres just dominated the Dodgers last night.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it after the game was over as I stayed up late to watch my Dallas Cowboys and all that sort of thing. So I had time to reflect on the Dodgers while I was waiting for that thing. Yeah, that's what you said, Case. I mean, there's really no other way to slice this thing up. The Dodgers had opportunities early against Darvish, had a bases loaded, nobody out, only got one run out of it. But good Lord, I mean, if they play defense like that, swing the bat like that, and pitch like that, I hate to say it, but we're in deep trouble. We're in a lot of trouble. They're a good team. If they play like that, we talked even here on our show here, they probably have the advantage in starting pitching going into the playoff and into this series. I think that's been proven to be correct, and going into Game 3, I think they still have the edge in starting pitching. Now, that being said, the Dodgers still have what they have. Hopefully, I'm sure Freddie will be ready to go the next game. Got him out, started treatment early, what have you, and we'll get him back in the lineup. He won't be 100%, but he'll be available, and he brings a lot to the table when he does that. But I'm a bottom line guy, Case, and you know how I am, just like you. Good Lord, that team looked unbeatable last night. The Padres put on the field, and I'll give them credit.
It's amazing how well they play behind certain pitchers. I think they had a lot of confidence in you, Darvish. You know this as well as I do. When you have your dude on the bump, it just seems like you play a whole different level of ball game.
Yeah, it is, and for a guy that throws 7 different pitches, that's amazing. First of all, to me, and I would have concerns. That's too many. I mean, get your goods, but for him, there's so many different speeds, angles, and pitches that. When he's on, and he's been tough on the Dodgers, been tough on everybody when he's on, and he was definitely on. Shohei, he went 0 for 4. He pretty much controlled him pretty well in the entire lineup. I mean, it's the same thing. We look down the bottom of our order, still getting some hits down there. I think our leading hitters are Lux and Edman as far as this series goes in the playoffs. So far. So, those guys are still kind of giving us what we need out of them, but I hate going back to Mookie. What's 0 for 23 now, the last 23, and love the guy.
Coach.
But you look on the other side. There's Tatis going deep twice. Mercado's Manny Machado. He's battling. I mean, he's struggling. He got he's still a great third baseman, but he's not hitting. But Tatis has been hot. He's hitting over 600. I think Merrill's over 400 for him. I think in the playoffs, that's the hottest hitters. Tatis has been ungodly. In the playoffs so far. So there it goes. There's a dude. Merrill's a dude. Their dudes are doing their thing. And that's what you have to have happen in this time of the season. And right now, outside Ohtani's big home run in the first game, our dudes really aren't doing much.
Did you say Tatis is ungodly or mouthy? Which one did you say?
Both.
Both. Yeah. Him and Profar, man, they just give it to the fans, don't they?
Well, I think there's two sides of that story. First of all, as a Dodger fan, I'm like every other Dodger fan. I'm embarrassed to see that sort of thing happen in Dodger Stadium. It should never happen, but and I would never justify that in any way, shape, or form.
There is no justification for throwing stuff on the field.
No, but those cats are running their. Don't think from me.
Right, they are.
Those cats are running their mouths out there and taunting the fans. Those guys, they should hear it every night they're on a road game. Just let it go, man. You can't listen to everything. They know they're in your head. They're living rent free in your head. If you're, it's easy when you're winning 10-2 to talk smack and get away with it. When you're getting your tail beat off, you look stupid doing it. So the best way of doing that is just don't do it. But I'm not in charge of them, whatever. But I know those guys are running their mouths. I can't see Merrill run his mouth. Maybe I don't think he's that cat just by watching the way he approaches things. But those two corner outfielders they're very good defensive players. They're very good players, and they're letting the fans give it. I mean, they showed Tatis early in the game. The fans are giving it to him. Dude, just ignore it. I mean, if you don't ignore it, you're going to spend all your time talking to the fans. And I know Mike Shield don't want that either, but I don't blame him. He's worried about safety as a fan. I think the thing in left field, if you look at videos I've been watching, you probably have too, it got blew up a little bit. The guy that Profar stole the home run, the guy he was talking to, he took him. There's a video of him taking Profar, bringing a ball to him, smiling, with a guy smiling back at him. He took the ball and threw it way out in front of him, did not throw it at him, threw it way out in front of him. It's kind of laughed it off. then you see some other ball. That shouldn't have. The other part is unacceptable. I think Profar was good with he giving that guy a ball he threw. I think he was good with it. Then when another ball came, okay, I can kind of see where he's coming from. Then of course you had some trash on the field and that sort of thing. But I think that thing was some playful banter out there with Profar and the guy who he stole the home run from. I don't think it was a bad thing, but some other guys jumped in there and made it worse than it probably should have been.
I'll say this about the Padres: they talk all that smack, but then they back it up, man. I mean, you got to give them credit for that.
Dude, I mean, it's back in. Of course, you're not old enough to remember the old A's back in the '70s. Kind of the same thing. They had the mustaches. That was a big thing back in the '70s. The white shoes and what have you. But they backed up. They kind of could get mouthy at times. They're the Yankees back to the day. Billy Martin kind of battled each other all the stinking time. They didn't battle anybody else, and Billy was fighting Reggie, and Billy's fighting Steinbrenner, and they were successful. But no, this team is very, very cocky. Case, we've said this before. Everybody who's a high level major league athlete, no matter what sport, they're cocky. You call it what you want. They're confident. They're cocky, or they wouldn't be where they are. They will not get there without that mentality. These guys got it. They sure don't have any trouble flaunting it and letting everybody see it. But like you said, Case, they back it up. You just got to kind of sit there and wear it. You can't do much about it. If you don't like it, put an end to it.
Bogarts, Machado, and Tatis were 6 for 13. Whenever your dudes show up like that, I mean, that goes a long ways. You talked about, Coach, I don't know how many different times that Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, those guys have to show up. And Machado, he was 1 for 5 last night.
Right.
Xander Bogaerts, Fernando Tatis Jr., you hit on it just a second ago. Their dudes showed up. The Dodgers didn't. And yes, the Tommy Edmonds are great. Yes, the Gavin Luxes are great. But unless it's somebody like Max Muncy or Will Smith who can drive in 4 or 5 runs, it's going to be a tough night.
Yeah, those guys are really doing what we're asking them to do. The bottom order are doing what we going into the series said they needed to do.
They're not run producers, though.
No, they're not run producers. They're table setters, however you want to call it. They're doing what they need to do to get on base in front of these cats. But it just is what it is. Yeah, you have to get those guys. Those guys have to perform. I mean, you look at every series. Go look over the Mets series. Go the guys that are making the big hits for them are their guys. They screw around, pitch to Bryce Harper. See you later, dead center. I mean, they pitch around him, they pitch to him, he hits a home run. I mean, that's kind of the way this thing goes this time of year because you're seeing everybody's dudes on the mound, the pen. There's no inning killers out here unless you get a big lead like you did last night, like the Padres. You might throw an inning killer in there. You're seeing dude after dude after dude. That's why the best team's going to win. Short series is so tough. Now the Dodgers got to go to San Diego for 2, but you just look at it. If the Padres guys are performing like that, up and down the lineup, of course you look over there. I think my boy Cronenworth, he's over, so I can still talk about him. He's still over in the series, But Bogarts is probably, if I had a number 2 player on the Padres I really admire and really respect as a baseball purist as you and I are, I love Bogarts, the way he approaches it. That dude looked like he pulled a hamstring. 2 pitches later, hits a freaking home run. And he's not doing a whole lot of the cocky stuff. He's just been a solid major leaguer. Him and Mookie played together in Boston. Bogarts has been a solid major leaguer for a long time. He approaches the game the right way. He's a good major leaguer, man. And and he proves it on a lot of occasions. He's not the big name, big dude there in the Padres, but he's a solid player.
I don't have the animosity towards Darvish that Dodgers fans do. Dodgers fans do. I know he didn't show up in Game 7 in 2017. I get all that. But I think the Dodgers environment's a little bit different. I think he enjoys the underdog environment of the Padres a little bit more. I think he thrives better in that type of environment. And we said it yesterday, man. The dude just shows up whenever. Other than, like I said, I know Dodgers fans are like, what are you talking about? He didn't show up when we needed him. Like I said, I get that. But the dude just seems like he always shows up when it matters for them, at least in the last couple of years.
He looks relaxed.
Yes, he does.
We know his stuff's ungodly. That's never been a question about his stuff.
He didn't look relaxed with the Dodgers.
No, that's what I'm saying. He looks relaxed for the Padres. He just kind of out there. He doesn't look stressed about anything. I agree with you. It's a bigger stage being with LA, and I'll give him a break somewhat. We don't know what the Astros knew when he was pitching. We have a pretty good idea what was going on.
Good point.
Yeah, I mean, but the old trash can deal, whatever, we don't, he was right kind of in the middle of that. It was the game he pitched. So there's some other stuff involved there, too, that might have played into that. But, yeah, he looks very relaxed. He's just an ungodly pitcher when he's on, and he was on last night. And looked like if the Dodgers didn't get something out of that bases loaded, no outs deal early, they're probably going to have a tough time getting anything off of him. But he wasn't walking people. He was throwing at 7 different pitches up there. Yeah. Come on, guys. It's going to be a tough night if you get your opportunities, you better take advantage of it, especially early. If not, as they always say with the great ones, what he goes 7 innings, give up 1 run. Yeah. That's a great night against a great lineup.
As we always say, Coach, if you don't get to the great ones, and I think Darvish is a great pitcher, if you don't get to them early, especially when you have chances, they always seem to settle in, and that's exactly what Darvish did last night. But, Coach, this was the Dodgers really, really, really needed to win both games in Los Angeles. They needed to win both the Yamamoto and Flaherty starts because now, first of all, the Padres have the ability to end the series before it ever comes back to L.A., right?
Yep.
And then, 2, I think that the Padres are going to be heavily favored in the next 2 games. You're talking about Landon Knack, who, hey, we think that he's capable of going out there and handling the moment, but you never know because you've never seen him in that environment. So you're talking about a rookie. You're talking about Walker Buehler, of which we're hanging our hat on like 1 start out of the entire season.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers really needed to give themselves the 2-game buffer in San Diego to guarantee to get back to Game 5 to Yamamoto and Flaherty. So, in my opinion, last night's game, losing that squarely put the Dodgers back up against the wall, of which they have come out swinging every time this year when that's happened.
No doubt about it. I think I'm not a Vegas guy. I'm too cheap to be a good gambler or even gamble at all. But I'm sure the Padres immediately became the favorite on that deal.
Absolutely.
They go back home. The Dodgers, may not even get back to Dodger Stadium. But like I said, if you look at it, King going against, I think it's announced Buehler as a starter on Game 3. I think that's what I saw, but it could change. But anyway, King's throwing for them. I saw already this morning he's faced the Dodgers 4 times. 2 times he's gone 12 innings of scoreless pitching. Mm-hmm. And 2 other times he got lit up. So we don't know what we're going to get there.
Yeah,
so we're half and half of lighting him up and him lighting us up. So we'll see. But like you said, so far the Dodgers have shown the ability to, when their backs against the wall, to rise up. They definitely got to do some rising in going to be in a tough environment against a tough opponent. But you know what? That's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be, Case. Like we said yesterday. I don't care. It's all tough. It's nothing easy. It's tough for the Padres, even though it didn't look tough for them last night. It was because they still give them credit. They won the game. The Dodgers didn't really hand them anything. There wasn't,
Right. I agree.
They won the game just like we did the night before.
Kind of a punch to the gut, though, seeing Darvish, who didn't perform for the Dodgers in Game 7 of 2017, and then David Peralta, who I don't think anybody's probably been more critical of him as far as while he was in a Dodgers uniform than I have been, just because I thought he got in the way of some of the prospects.
Yeah.
And you got to sit there and watch those 2 guys. Peralta hits the big home run, and then Darvish pitches. That was kind of a punch to the gut.
Yeah, especially, and of course, we had Manny in the uniform too. We know how.
Yes, we did.
We know how that turned out. That's why there's a reason why the Dodger fans can't stand him for a lot of reasons. But he was a terrible time when he was with the Dodgers. So you see those former players out there kind of sticking it to you a little bit. But we just hope Manny don't get hot because Tatis is off the charts now with the way he's hitting and he has been the entire playoffs. So but the former Dodgers coming back and kind of haunting you. It's always a tough pill to swallow.
I got a question for you on that line-out double play, which was the turning point of the game by Tommy Edman.
Right.
If the Dodgers score 3 or 4 right there, it's a totally different game. But still, you can't be so fragile to where if you have one opportunity go by the wayside, go by the boards, as Rex would say, that ends the game for you. You got to be more resilient than that, like the Dodgers have been all year. But I did want to ask you, is that a base running error right there, getting doubled off? I've always been taught if a line drive is hit behind you after your secondary lead, then just keep going to second base because you're not going to make it back to first in time anyways.
Right. I think it's probably not great base running, but it just is what it is. First, right at the first baseman, right behind you, he's moving towards first base. I don't know if there's a whole lot the runner could have done there. And baseball, all the game of inches, whatever. That may be a game of feet, a couple of feet one way or the other. Dodgers scored 2, possibly 3 runs right there, and we're probably having a whole different discussion right now. And they still may not have won the game because of the way the Padres are swinging, but at least they would have had a chance to jump right back into it where the Padres got to be thinking, oh, here we go again. It was up 3-0 last night. Those guys came back, and here they come again. So, the Dodgers are just a few feet away from having that discussion, or at least putting that seed of doubt into the Padres. But it didn't happen. Probably could have been some better base run, but I don't know what he could have done. It's just one of those things. I mean, it's hard to get pissed off the guy who just hit a line drive. Right? He just so happens right at somebody. Tommy did what he had to do. Whatever.
Yeah, and I just kept telling myself as the game went on, guys, just stay connected with this game.
Right.
I kept telling myself, and I kept posting, just be within like 1 run whenever the game gets turned over to the bullpen. And I was hoping it would be like the 6th inning, not the 8th inning, something like that.
Yeah.
And then the Dodgers would have like 4 shots at the San Diego bullpen, and because that's a lot of pressure, when you're only down 1, to know as a pitcher on the road that the tying run's always at the plate and the winning run's always on deck. So I just kept telling myself, got to stay connected. We need to figure out a way to be down just 1 run when the game gets turned over to the bullpen.
No, I agree with it, and I think you even texted me during the game when it was 4-1. I didn't feel good at 4-1. I'd have felt a lot better 4-2, even just because anytime you get a ground, you got the time to run at the plate. Yes. The Dodgers have the ability to do some things there. So, but staying at 4-1, when it continued to stay there, it's like, oh crap, you needed to at least get a run or two somewhere in there to keep there, because when the Padres pin comes, it doesn't matter. The Dodgers still got guys that can get hits off those guys, but it's not going to be easy, and you didn't want to be too far down when that happened.
So do you need to hit home runs in the postseason to win? Yes. Do you need to put the ball in play to win in the postseason? Yes. So both the Dodgers and the Padres, they have the ability to have bat-to-ball skills. The Dodgers have Tommy Edman and guys like that. Will Smith, typically speaking, will grind out some really quality at-bats. Shohei Ohtani will put the ball in play. But the Padres were the model last night of how you win postseason games. 3 strikeouts. So they consistently put the ball in play like they always do all night long, and then 5 home runs. So they had the bat to ball and the slug. When you play a team that has the bat to ball and the slug both, it's going to be very difficult to beat them.
I think the Dodgers only walked 1 guy on top of that, so they weren't giving them anything. Like you said, the Dodgers weren't walking people. For them to get runners on base, they were having to get hits, and they were doing that, moving it around. Like I said, if you had a perfect blueprint of how to win any baseball game, but especially the playoffs, there it is right there. Great defense, great pitching, great hitting. 6 home runs, but it's not just the 6 home runs. They hit a bunch of them late when the game was decided. But honestly, they hit a bunch late when the game was decided. Mm-hmm. Pretty much when the game was pretty much decided. It wasn't. The Dodgers still in striking distance, but that just made it look worse because he hit the home runs late. But like you said, Case, the back to ball skills, the base hits, moving runners, doing those all, because the Dodgers could steal anytime they wanted to. They just didn't get on there very much because Darvish is horrible against base runners. Anybody can steal on that we had, I think, but you got to have those opportunities, and it didn't come along enough of those.
We talked, unfortunately, yesterday on our show, or whenever our last show, when it's baseball like this, like one day just runs in the next. I can't remember which day is what, but it was going to be the day after for Freddie Freeman's ankle. Hey, the first day you have the adrenaline rolling. You're going to be able to make it through that game. You're probably not even going to feel your ankle. And then all of a sudden that adrenaline, you lose that adrenaline that next morning. That next day you do everything you can to get it back and get going, but we even mentioned it on the show yesterday. I was super worried about whether Freddie Freeman's ankle was going to be able to recover the day after playing a game, and especially a game that had as much adrenaline in it as Saturday's game did. So we saw Freddie Freeman have to come out, and when he came out, man, it was like the game was squarely in the balance.
Yeah, no doubt. He came out. It wasn't like the game was out of reach when he came out, but he was noticeably limping. I think me and you texted each other during the game. It's exactly what we said. He wasn't noticeably limping, the night before. We knew he was not 100%, but yesterday he was noticeably limping, and something, he got to a point where they just get him out, get him some treatment, and he got a day off today where they can continue with the treatment. They have all day tomorrow basically to go through more treatment. So he'll be ready to go Tuesday night. I don't think we're going to see him at 100% if he continues to play. You know how those ankles are. We've all had those. We've all had those things happen to us. So, he's not – I don't think we're going to see him at 100%. We won't see him at 100%, but he'll play. If at all possible, Freddie will play. And like I said, he had 2 hits the other night on a bad ankle. So I'd rather have a hobbled Freddie Freeman than not.
What'd you think about Jack Flaherty? The one concern I had, I said this yesterday, or on our I think it was our show yesterday, Coach. The one concern I had was that the Padres would force him to throw the ball in the strike zone. They wouldn't chase any of his stuff out of the zone, which in my opinion is where he gets a lot of his strikeouts. And then I wasn't sure if his stuff in the zone was good enough to consistently beat the Padres. So what'd you think about Jack Flaherty?
I think he hit it right on the head. I think when he's in the strike zone, it was hittable for him. I think there was too many center cut pitches, for a team like the Padres. And let's face, he's not trying to throw it there, but it ended up there. And the stuff just wasn't over the plate. It just wasn't good enough to get those hitters out. And that goes without saying. You get a big, Tatis goes deep in the first, and they're getting base hits, they're moving runners, and that's just what they do. And like you said, he was pretty much who we think he is right now. He was going into the playoffs. He was our best pitcher, but he's a guy that can be hit, and they proved it last night.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was bad or anything, but
no.
We needed him to match you, Darvish, and I didn't feel like he did that at all last night. So, hey, I thought, Dave went with the second round of A-teamers, Anthony Bonda, as far as the bullpen goes, Ryan Brazier. And then once Brazier gave up the home run, it was almost like, hey, if we're going to lose, I'm almost glad he gave up that home run, because now at least we're going to go down staff and we're going to keep everybody fresh. So as soon as Ryan Brazier gave up that home run, Dave immediately went to the B-team bullpen. It was Michael Grove and Edgardo Enriquez, so I thought that was probably the right play there. No,
there's no doubt about it. He's we knew we were going to have a couple of those guys weren't going to be available because they were extended in the first game. So the way it turned out, that was a good move on his part. Just get some guys in there and save your better arms. You got another day off. There's not a whole lot of travel. That's the best part about this series.
Yeah, right.
It's short travel. It's a short trip. So they can get those guys, but we're going to be, as far as the bullpen, we'll be full go, ready to go Tuesday night, and that's been our strength, Case. Let's face it, not our starting pitching. Our bullpen has been our strength. We just have to be able to get to that situation, get to the bullpen. We're in position to win, and I know they gave up a few last night, but the reality of it is the bullpen has been strong. They've given us a chance to win. And now going into Tuesday, I feel good about that. I don't feel good about a whole lot of other stuff. I feel good about our bullpen being ready to go, and that's been more successful than not, especially the latter part of the year.
I think if you follow Dodgers daily, I've been surprised that the Dodgers have put Edgardo Enriquez on the postseason roster. The guy, first of all, he's coming off Tommy John. He started in Single A Rancho, the lowest level of affiliated minor league baseball. So he went from Rancho to Great Lakes, from Great Lakes to Tulsa, from Tulsa to Oklahoma City, and then from Oklahoma City to Los Angeles, and then was on the playoff roster. Yeah. So, don't be surprised this happened last night. You're going from facing Single A hitters that swing at everything, right? To trying to get out and then also he had to face the heart of the order for the Padres. So you're asking a guy to start in Rancho and then end up his season trying to get out the heart of the order of the Padres. Now, I know it was low leverage. The game was out of hand by the time he came in, but that's a pretty tough ask. You should not be surprised or upset with Edgardo Enriquez.
No, and that in the long run, it'll be good for him. Whatever happens from this point forward, that was good for him to be thrown in that situation. Whatever success, whatever, he knows what it's like, and the guy still throws 100 miles an hour, so he's not horrible. He just doesn't have the experience. He's a young kid. He doesn't have the experience of facing the type of hitters he's looking at now. And I don't know how many more times he'll get thrown to playoffs. Probably not very much, but you never know. There's always those surprises, Case. Maybe somewhere down the line, this cat comes in for 2 innings and lights it up.
Right.
We don't know because we had never seen it. We saw it last night, but it was kind of a mop-up situation. We don't know what could happen there. So, it's good for him. It wasn't necessarily good for the team, but it's good for him to get that experience right there. And in the long run, you hope that he'll learn from it and it'll pay off. And hopefully, you never know. It could even happen in this series. Who knows?
Of course, your coaching brain, anytime you lose, you immediately start looking for all the positives that you can build on, right?
Yep.
So you can address your team with, hey, guys, if we just do this, build on that, we're going to be fine, right? So is there anything to take away from the late home run from Max Muncy? It was in mop-up time, but is there anything to take away from that, or is it just a mop-up home run that doesn't matter?
No, he smoked it off a pretty good – I guess he hit it off a pretty good reliever. I don't know. Solo home run when you're down 10-1, I don't take a whole lot out of it. Of course, my first thought, my coaching brain comes out, where the hell was that week?
Yeah, right.
I shouldn't be that way, but I am. That's the way I coach.
You're human.
That's great. Give me a solo homer when it's 10-1. I need that when the game's on the line, when we got whatever. But it's good for him to square up a ball, and he's been swinging it pretty well.
You're trying to be nice.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean a whole lot. When it's 10-1 game, you hit a bomb. Okay, whatever. It doesn't. You don't take much in that the next game. I don't think he will either. He got a good swing on it and got a home run, but he didn't look like he was ready over there taking pictures and stuff. So
yeah, right. He's definitely a pro. He understood.
He understood
that entire situation. Coach, this has been a fun show. After a frustrating game yesterday, like we said, the Dodgers put their backs right up against the wall. So final thoughts.
It is what it is, Case. I said, like I said, this one's easy to kind of break down. If you jump right to the meat of it. Great pitching, great defense, great hitting. You're going to have a tough time. With a team of that quality, you're going to have a tough time. On the other hand, if the Dodgers do the same thing, have great pitching, great hitting, great hit, defense, they're going to win the game too. So it is what it is. You give the Padres credit, and we got to remember one thing. They even mentioned on the broadcast, it's one game. It doesn't. It would hurt more if we'd lost 2-1. Or 3-2. But, you get there and get your butt kicked. Okay, Dave can save some pitching. They kind of start refocusing, planning for Game 3. So tip the cap to the Padres and move on to Game 3.
Yep. Somebody's got to tell John Smoltz. I think he's a talented broadcaster, but somebody just needs to tell him he's talking to people that don't know nearly as much about baseball as he does.
Yeah.
So talk like that. I mean, talk to us like we don't know the game like you. I think he's good, but he just is so complicated with the things he says.
Yeah, I was listening to I kind of like A.J. Przinsky and Adam Wainwright on the other side. A.J.'s a catcher. He kind of cuts right to the chase and
he does.
says what needs to be said. And Adam Wainwright did well, too.
And he'll criticize, too.
Yes, he will. And he's always been that way. So A.J. does a good job, I think, over there. And, like you said, Smokes is great at what he does. But, I like to hear more about – you need a catcher talking like A.J., And I mean, Wainwright is new to the business, but he did.
Tim McCarver was always awesome.
Tim McCarver was always that way. Joe Morgan was almost sometimes would be over the top. He's so knowledgeable.
Yeah, he was smoltzy. He was very smoltzy.
I learned a lot of baseball from Joe Morgan back as I was growing up as a young coach. Oh, that makes sense, and I incorporated in my coaching. So I learned a lot from Joe Morgan just listening to him on Sunday Night Baseball. So we'll see moving forward. The Dodgers. I don't know. It's one game. Let's move on. Let's get ready to go.
Yep. Agree. And Joe Davis, obviously being the play-by-play guy, he is just so freaking good, man. We're so lucky to get to hear him every night. But, Coach, hey, it's always great to start my week on Monday morning, getting to see your face, and I love you.
Love you too, Case. Have a good week, and Tuesday night, go Dodgers.